In this presentation, I'll be introducing the iPad for music performance. I'm going to look at aspects of the hardware that you can use for connecting your iPad, look at some of the software options available, and finally consider iPad affordances. What makes the iPad special as a music performance tool? The first piece of hardware we're going to look at is the Alesis I/O dock. These devices are available in the UWS music department. They provide two microphone level inputs, guitar inputs, and line outs, which can be connected to a DI unit, direct to a guitar amplifier, or straight into a mixing console or other recording device. The I/O dock devices that we have an Apple 30-pin connector. If you have a newer iPad 2, you'll need a 30-pin to Lightning adapter to connect to these devices. A simpler option, but perhaps less reliable, is to use the headphone output to connect directly to a guitar amplifier or a DI unit, or once again directly to a mixer. You'll need a 3.5mm stereo mini jack to either a single mono quarter-inch jack or to two mono quarter-inch jacks if you want to use stereo. Now, looking at the software options with the iPad, it's important to note that your app purchases stay with your Apple account, but that you need an Apple account to set up the iPad. So the apps that you purchase are linked to the iPad device, and you can't swap or share apps between devices. You'll also want to consider making a backup of your device to iTunes on your computer. The App Store has many music applications, and it's gaining more every day, so I can't really describe them all in detail. But I will introduce a few general classes of application that you might find useful. Firstly, there are the software production environments. These can be thought of as replacements to programs like Pro Tools or Apple Logic, although they are much more simplified and have fewer options. There are still many useful features. Programs such as GarageBand, BeatMaker or Cubase include not only MIDI sequencers, audio recorders, but also a range of interesting instrument devices that could be used in performance. The second class of software apps are the synthesizers. These include amazing emulations of classic analog synthesizers, such as those produced by Arturia. These are incredibly good value, as you get very fine sounding instruments for a very small financial outlay. There are a whole range of novel synthesizers available, including instruments that really take advantage of the iPad's multi-touch interface, and some that include controls that use the accelerometer for tilt and rolling the iPad itself to control instruments. Here's two examples: the Borderlands granular synth and the amusing little noise music, a 555 timer based emulation. There are an amazing array of modular and patchable synthesizers which offer flexibility previously unknown in this sort of price area. Two examples here: Audulus and Gisuto. They're modular synthesizers. Modules can be patched together at will, and they can make really interesting performance and sound design tools. Finally, loopers and step sequencers. The program Loopy HD enables you to record up to 12 separate loops synchronized to a metronome. These can be recorded from a microphone input using the Alesis I/O dock, but also from other applications using the inter-application connection options I'll talk about next. There are innumerable step sequences. Here's two examples: Pattern Music and Thesis. Once again, some of these offer some interesting instruments on their own. The iPad can be used as a hardware controller for other pieces of software. Applications in this group include TouchOSC, MIDI Designer, and Mira, which is designed to work particularly with Mac's MSP. These software can send MIDI control messages or open sound control messages either to applications on the iPad itself or via wireless MIDI or the wireless network connection to external synthesizers or programs running in your computer. Now, the final aspect of music software for the iPad that I will discuss are the inter-application connections. Now, this is quite a complicated area, and I will attempt to produce another tutorial specifically on this. But here are a few of the options. Apple's Core MIDI allows MIDI connections between apps on the iPad, but also MIDI connections to other programs such as Ableton Live via the Wi-Fi network. When using MIDI over Wi-Fi, it works best with an ad hoc or point-to-point network rather than over a Wi-Fi router or a wide area network. Open Sound Control is another connection option. This is a protocol much like MIDI, which is based on network packets. It's really designed for connection via network. Once again, avoid router-based networks with Open Sound Control. A new innovation in the iPad is something called Audio Bus. Audio Bus is a standard that's been widely adopted by many app manufacturers that allows audio to be connected between apps. This is particularly useful if you're using a looper, where you can record performance on one app into the looper and build up large compositions in this way. An earlier application in this class was Tabletop. Rather than being a connection protocol, this was more like an environment that certain applications can operate within. Finally, I'd like you to consider what the affordances of an iPad are. Why would you play a keyboard on a device without haptic feedback? It's rather difficult to play accurately or expressively on the iPad Surface. However, well, the iPad is small and portable, and it's an innovative control device. But what's really unique about the iPad? Well, firstly, it supports multi-touch gestures. It has an accelerometer, which will measure the tilt of the device, and a gyroscope, which will measure the heading, and the device can be shaken to produce a whole range of interesting control signals. It's got a very high-resolution display for excellent visual feedback, and some of the control programs that I mentioned earlier really allow you to take advantage of some of these affordances which are unique to the iPad and make it much more than just a replacement for other types of control devices. So just to recap, we've looked at hardware options for connecting your iPad. We've looked at a whole range of different classes of software applications. And finally, we've considered the unique affordances of the iPad as a control device. I encourage you to use your imagination to think outside the box in terms of using your iPad in music performance.